What does the Fed think of affordability?
I think the Fed is trying to really maintain its dual mandate here and not get sucked into the political conversations of the day. So they're not trying to get into conversations about $37 for your daughter or $3 for your daughter. They're trying to think about what's happening with labor markets and what's happening with inflation.
Well, which one are you more worried about today?
I'm itchy about inflation. I do think the overall state of the economy is obviously confusing. You do have some weakness in labor markets, which obviously you've seen some people on the Federal Reserve responding to. At the same time, inflation has been really sticky. We have not seen real progress on inflation since mid-2024. And so it's a little bit odd that the Federal Reserve is almost certainly about to cut interest rates by another 25 basis points when they really are not all the way there on their inflation goals.
So I'm glad you're with us because you were on the White House Council of Economic Advisors in the Biden administration when prices were peaking. Is this where we're at now? Is this a last mile story, or did the president's tariff regime reignite the issue of inflation to make the issue worse?
Yeah, if you looked at where people thought we were going to be at the end of 2025, sort of consensus was that inflation was going to be about 2.4%. So, basically heading towards target. The last inflation reading we had on CPI was about 3.0. So obviously pretty substantially above where people thought we were headed. Now, counterfactuals are hard, who knows? But we've certainly seen evidence that tariffs are starting to push prices up. I would also emphasize the immigration decisions, right? When you are pulling people out of the labor force, when you are making it harder for employers to hire, that is going to drive up prices, particularly in certain sectors like agriculture, construction, and that's not helpful either. So overall, I would certainly say that the administration's policy mix has been on the inflationary side. That's certainly what we've seen in our analysis here.
Well, I know we've been without a lot of data because of the government shutdown recently, so it's difficult to put numbers on every answer here. Martha, the president said simply last evening, quote, "We inherited the highest prices ever, and we're bringing them down," unquote. Are those two statements true?
Inflation is not the highest that has ever been, certainly not when he inherited it. It was higher many times in history. Just after World War II, it hit 20%, which thank goodness we never hit in the aftermath of the pandemic. Inflation is hard enough. The cost of living issues that are facing families are hard enough. It does not help to not take them seriously and to not think carefully about what the data is showing us about where we are and where we could be headed.
Yeah. Kevin Hassett is speaking on another network right now, Martha, and I've just got my eyes on the headlines crossing the terminal. Of course, you know that he's been reported by Bloomberg to be at the top of a very short list here to replace Jay Powell next year. He just said that Donald Trump will make the final Fed chair choice in the next week or two. Is the market prepared for Kevin Hassett, if that's the name?
You've been seeing some reporting that people in markets have been going to Secretary Bessent and suggesting that the markets would not be happy about Kevin Hassett as Fed chair because, there's some concern about Federal Reserve independence with him at the helm. We will have to see. I think markets have been, frankly, overly complacent about the issue of Federal Reserve independence. It is very clear that this administration would like interest rates to be lower, in my opinion, regardless of the overall economic situation. And frankly, we've seen this before. We've seen this in the 70s. We've seen this in other countries. When you lose Federal Reserve independence, or even when it's simply threatened, that really hurts the quality of your economic governance, and it hurts economic growth, and it hurts residents of the country. And so
Understood.
I really do think that we need to be prioritizing that and that markets need to be responding to that.
Does it matter that he's on TV every day defending the president's economic policies and defending the president's approach to the Fed, because he's become very good at that as a political animal inside this administration. But it's a very different job running the FOMC.
It's a very different job. I mean, you have had people who have been, part of economic policy in the White House, then joined the Federal Reserve before, who have taken Federal Reserve independence very, very seriously. So it is not the case that simply because someone has worked in the White House that they cannot do a good job at the Federal Reserve. I want to emphasize that. But I do think that it is important that Kevin Hassett or anyone who is nominated makes it very, very clear that they are going to prioritize Federal Reserve independence in the face of a president who doesn't seem particularly interested in it.
Interesting. What's the question you would have for Jay Powell if you were in the news conference today?
I want to know if he's going to resign his seat. I think if he stays on after he's chair, which he can do, which would be unusual, that may provide some reassurance to investors about, the votes that there will be for steady macroeconomic management at the Fed.